for your kind introduction, and I would like also to thank the organizers for having these opportunities to present my ideas and experience in this very unique event. Just imagine if somebody will come to you and say, we can, in a few years, turn our company operations completely over from where it is today to a much, much better place. Probably this will be regarded as too ambitious or even not realistic. So I'm going to share with you what is possible. My experience was already described, but I want to emphasize on one thing. I have really passion to improve things, especially when it comes to operations, engineering, projects, logistics, even R&D. And on the other hand, I have zero tolerance for ineffectiveness. And here I come. So I joined Adama in 2012. This is the ID card for Adama. It's a #1 leading provider for crop protection for farmers all over the world. If you take the total arena, including the patent-based companies, it's #6. Sales of about $4 billion per year out of about $60 billion total market. Grow rapidly in the last 20 years. Work in more than 100 countries. And I circle here one thing that I'm going to refer to later. The company is proud to offer the widest portfolio anybody can offer in the world. And let's see. So I joined Adama and I got responsibility for everything from R&D, procurement, production, supply chain, logistics, distribution, of course, engineering in the middle. And I believe that based on my experience, knowledge, strength, my #1 contribution will be in R&D, production, maybe a little bit on engineering. Just when I joined, before I joined, I have a meeting with the chairman of the company, and we have a wonderful 1-hour chat. And at the end, he called me and said, Eli, this company is great, but in fact, we are not doing money. So your mission, #1 mission, is the inventory management, working capital, because this is not working. So what was the situation? Our inventory, which carry us a lot of working capital, even though we have many shortages because of the spread, because of the number of products, because of the complexity of the operation, and we have an extremely highly logistic cost. Now, if you look at it, what is the challenge? It's very complex. We have something like 300 different molecules. So this is about half of everything the world has. Then we have 1,500 different products. If you go to the SKU level, which include the size of the bottles, the label, etc., we get over 15,000 different SKUs served in more than 100 countries. Now, couple this with the fact that the shelf life of the product is relatively short, about 2 years. How you manage these operations without having too many obsolete and without having too much inventory. And what I described before is a vicious cycle. You have high inventory, high working capital, and because of the shortages, there is a huge mistrust. I found out a huge mistrust between the selling units, supply chain, production. And of course, when there is a mistrust, then inventory goes even up because people don't trust the system, so they order more than they think they need. And all these came with some other extras. A lot of free work, which cost a lot of money. Extra logistic costs. In many cases, we move products from one area to another area. Also, in some cases, we had to supply in the last minute, not from our really source, so we had some quality problems associated with these delays. Now, the company, of course, was aware in the situation. People in general believe that this is, in fact, fact of life because of the size, because of what we offer, because of the geographical spread. This is what we need to have. But the company had pressures from the shareholders to do something about it. So they tried many different ways. So one thing was to put pressure on forecast accuracy. Now, this is agriculture. You don't know what will be the weather next year. You don't know what will be the different diseases in the field next year. So, in fact, what I have remembered when I saw it, a good friend of mine and a mentor for many years, Dr. Godrat, maybe some of you heard about him from his many books that were sold all over the world in millions. He said that if management forces certainty on uncertain situation, not only that it doesn't contribute, on the contrary, it has negative impact on there. Because if you embrace the uncertainty, you know it's there, then you can treat it. If you force it like it is certain, you create damage. And I remember this very well. And of course, all these pressure on the selling unit to give better and better forecast yield a lot of frustration because people were trying hard without a lot of success. Then, of course, the magic, sophisticated IT solutions. Now, IT solutions and IT tools are important, but what happens if you put IT solution on a bad process? Then, not only that you don't contribute anything because you stay with the same process, you waste a lot of resources. And one thing I want to say about statistic-based solutions. Statistic-based solution assumes that next year will be the same or similar to last year's. And now, again, this is agriculture. Nobody can expect exactly what is going to happen. The last thing they tried for years, and actually this to some extent work, is to control and prioritize every single internal order. Now, you can do that. You can reduce the numbers, especially at the end of the quarter. You can delay orders in order to force the units to be more lean, but you don't really fix the source of the problem. Now, if you do this again and again, I don't have to tell you what does it means. Wiser people for me already said it. So here I am. I'm not from this industry. People told me in the company again and again, listen, you are dreaming. This is reality. We cannot really change a lot. Now I listen. So I brought the #1 company that can do a really benchmark. And we bought a company that actually has about 90% of the total sales as internal data from the companies that use this benchmark for their own uses. So I have to do it in order to reflect reality to the company. Now they came up with many data and many ideas, but just look at this one. This is Adama versus the industry for 4 years. Let's leave aside 2009 because it was bad for everybody in the industry. But even if you took the next 3 years, Adama was actually far away from the average. In fact, Adama was by far worst in class. Now, when we had this and we showed this to the people, first of all, they were shocked because, we thought we are good. And in many aspects of the business, we were great, not only good. So why we had this idea that we are good? The paradigm was that if you have more inventory, you have less shortages. Now, since the company #1 mission was to grow and to grow fast, we didn't tolerate shortages. So we thought we increased inventory and we will have less shortages. In fact, this was not the case, and I will show you later. So we need to change the paradigm. So how you do it? First of all, we share the benchmark in all levels. I still remember the first meeting with the management of the company, showing them the results. Everybody was shocked, but we share it with everybody else. And, you know, even people that are not connected directly to this process, it was important, and we'll see later why, to get them into the picture. Now we share the benchmark. We also share the vision, what can be achieved. We share a few principles, just direction for the solution. We didn't put a tailor full solution because I personally believe that you need to build the solution, the full solution, with the people in the field. You cannot come with the full-fledged plan and say, this is what it is. So we use the fact that we need to build the solution together in order also to build a team around these new solutions. I was looking for partners at the company, and when I talk with everybody, I listen to one thing. Many of them say, listen, your ideas are great, but they will jeopardize our KPIs. So whenever you want to do a change, you have to keep in mind these KPIs, and I'm going to talk about this later. After this, we run a few pilots. Of course, we look for low-hanging fruits, but we took pilots which are not too small, but not too risky to the company on the other end. So I will present for the cases, the principles. So this is the reality. This is the characteristic of supply chain in agrochemical industry. So if you go to the left side, you have material sourcing and production and formulation, which relatively long lead time, sometimes between 6 to 9 months. But on these, you can have relatively accurate forecast, because if you take the aggregate on the same molecule, for example, from all over the world, for all the products, different products, you can get a reasonable forecast, let's say plus minus 5 to 10%, which is manageable. Then if you go to the right side, you must have very short time when you deal with country level distribution farmers. On the other end, you cannot expect accurate forecast. So you have to embrace these parameters in your design. So the few principles we took is to have very limited long-term forecast only for sourcing and capacity planning. So when I came to the company, actually the selling units were required to put 18-month forecast on the SKU level. So every product, 18 months, just think of the poor guy in Canada or the US that have to bring you the data, what he will sell in agriculture 18 months from now. Impossible. So they failed again and again and again. So we changed this. We say, no, we need just the total amount just to plan our sourcing capacity and production capacity. Then we move the supply from push to pull. So instead of looking at the yearly or 3 months forecast and send the material, we say, no, we'll send some and we'll look at the actual sale. We implement something called dynamic buffer management. Of course, you need some tool to manage it. So instead of fixing, which was the case before, fixing the how much you need extra for each product. So if it's very profitable, you have 30 or 40% more. If it's less good, so you have less buffer. So we have dynamic buffer, we change along with the sales, with the actual sales in the field. Of course, you need to change the operations to be much more flexible to support this change. So these were the principles. I'm not going into this table in deep. So each one of the steps, for example, raw material and active production, how you plan it, what are the reasons. It's important to reflect to people not only the policy, but also the reason. They should understand the reasoning behind every policy that you put. Now, so you need to be aggressive on the production and buy of the raw materials and active. You need to be very cautious on the end, on the SKU level when you formulate, pack, fill. Now, also, we took advantage of the fact that to create extra capacity on packaging line or even formulation, it's much less expensive than invest in new production line. So here you can allow yourself to have extra capacity in order to not to do things too early. So two case studies. One of them is Europe. Europe was the #1 lucrative market for Adama, as well as for many other companies in this area. Highly regulated, very profitable, high barrier for entry. So it was really important to have a good solution here. So we made a pilot, about total sales of about $50 million as a pilot. And what we have done, we took advantage of the fact that in many cases, you have the same product with many different SKUs in different countries or different size. So we have created an hub in Europe, sending the formulated material from Israel. And we took the advantage that we have this aggregation in order to serve the countries across the year, along the season, although it's a very short season. We observe the sales day by day and actually supply whatever they need when they sell more. So the better we have better aggregation, you can have less inventory because it's in one place. You can have smaller buffer, and then you have to respond much faster to the market. So if some country can sell much more, you can still supply it. So we ran this exercise, and what happened on this year, we see that these previous years, the same countries, the same products of the pilot, they finished the year. The end of year inventory was about 25%. We finished the year on this pilot with 10% products in the country, plus another 5% still in the hub, not filled, not packed, so still available, not only for Europe, to move to other countries if needed. So this was the results. But you know, people are suspicious, so they ask, maybe this year was better, maybe these countries play well. So we have done all kinds of comparisons. So for example, this one, if you look at the same countries, how much they end the season with on other products which are not in the pilot, they actually have 38%. So in the pilot, they have 10%, and the rest 38%. Now, if you look at the total sales, it wasn't a bad year. All items of these countries, 96% of the work plan, of the forecast, on the pilot items, because we have this ability to be more flexible on the supply, the actual sales were 17% higher than the forecast, total forecast. So we plan to do another bigger pilot, and then the region and the country managers came to us and say, we're convinced, let's go full way to the full plan. Second case study is the US. Extremely competitive market, very relatively low margin. Adama owns, which is a big advantage, 2 formulation packing facilities, but they were run as independent business units. So their KPI, again, were to make money. So in many cases, they prefer to give services to external customers over Adama. Adama US a huge amount of warehouses all over the country because they have a special promise that they thought would bring a lot of value to the commercial activities to supply within 24 hours. So they must have most of the products everywhere, all the time. So reality check. First of all, we check these 24 hours promise. How do you measure if your value proposition give really benefit to the customer? You ask the customer. And we ask the customers, distributors and farmers, whether for these 24 hours they are ready to pay small, something like less than 1% more. And they say, no, we don't need it. In fact, we don't need this extra service at all. So it was easy to change. Then we found that there is an intensive use of external formulators because of the fact that the Adama owns plants were busy with others. And this create extremely long lead time for the active and the procurement, because if you go to external formulator, he cannot give you this service at the peak season. So he told you, listen, bring your stuff 6 months ahead for me to do it for you. So a lot of inventory shortages because you cannot react during the peak season because you don't have the facility. High inventory, high cost of internal logistics within the US. Out of about $10 million of logistics, we found out that $1 million is moving items between warehouses of Adama US. So we changed very few things. We changed the logistics spread to few hubs. We changed the structure and the operation mode of the plants. So we told them, you don't have to make money. You have to give first priority service to Adama US. So they lost, because of this change, they lost $300,000 per year. So just imagine if you compare it to the benefit of having these plants available for you full year, especially in the high season. So we changed these. Of course, we changed their KPI to adjust it. Results, fast and amazing. Sharp increase in availability, 20% saving on total logistic costs. So this by itself is more than this $1 million that we saved before. Drastic reduction on lead time and inventory. So it was a great win, and we again took these pilot and go to full-blown a year later. Now, this is something I want to focus on because I believe that many good intentions and good projects of improvement fail not because the solution is not good, just because you don't invest enough and pay attention enough on how to deal with people and how to do it to deal with their KPIs along this process. So again, my friend and mentor, Dr. Goldratt, he told for years, tell me how you measure me and I will tell you how I will behave. So if you want to change behavior of people, you must change their KPIs. So what we have done with people, first, I mentioned it before, involvement of people from all departments and geographies. You will be surprised on people that are not connected to supply chain, they will come with great ideas how to support because now they understand what is needed from them. You share the vision, you share the road, you share the expected outcome. I said before, you tailor the solution with the people. First of all, it will be a different solution based on the same principles in different part of the world. But important, don't ignore criticism and embrace objections. If you really listen to the concerns of the people across this process of change, you will find real gold mine. You will find that people can actually help you to improve your solution because of their comments, remarks. Sometimes it can be a nasty remark, but you still have to listen. You have to focus at all on KPIs. This is crucial, but also try to focus as much as possible on global KPIs vs local ones. It is not easy. There is not a silver bullet here. You come to a guy, the Manuel at the warehouse in Mexico, and tell to him, you are now part of the global operations and you need to take care of the global inventory. And you know what? When they understand it, they, again, come with ideas and they contribute to the process in the way that you cannot even imagine. Again, it is not simple to do, but it's crucial. And we made actually something like 10% of the KPIs of everybody in the company on working capital and inventory. Results. This is, I don't need to explain. We went down constantly and drastically over 4 years. And again, people are suspicious. People tell you maybe these years were better, maybe the whole industry went in this direction. So what you do? Reality check again with benchmarking. So one slide, tell the whole story. We started here. We were worst in class with 238 days of inventory versus the industry average. The industry actually in this year went up because the market was much tougher, a lot of changes in the market, and they did not realize these changes fast enough. We came after 4 years to be first in class, not only much lower than the average, but first in class in all industry. My good friend, the CFO of the company, always tell me, okay, nice, intelligent, smart, show me the money. So in these 4 years, we reduced the working capital of the company only on inventory by $400 million. This is about 25% of the total initial working capital. And this is an absolute number. And this year, the company still grow on sales. So you need to serve more sales with much, much lower inventory. So maybe the service were damaged. Availability went up from 75% to 90%. But actually, it went up much more because 75% was tricky. It was measured against the promised delivery date. We changed it to be against the requirement, the real need of the market, and it went up to 90%. So it was a drastic move. Additional saving in all aspects, logistics, production, each one of them tens of millions of dollars over this period. Quality went up. Of course, we have done many other activities to increase, to improve quality, but this was real contributor to this process. All these in less than 4 years. So what is next? This is always the question. So many people, this is the green curve. Many people believe that if you do such a leap, you already squeeze the lemon, and now we can improve very little. I personally believe on the red curve. When you are here, you already have a much better operations, a much better muscles. You are able to do the next leap much better than if you do it 5 years ago. So why not? So I'm not going to get into it, but there was a new plan, a new program, how to go to the next level, and of course, using the extra money that the company produce. So I'd like to thank you for your attention, and remember, this can be done at any company, even the best ones, anytime, anywhere. I was retired from Adama 2.5 years ago, and from then I support as a consultant for a few companies, deliver these messages, help them as much as I can, and I put myself available to everybody here in the audience to do it. Thank you again.